BVM's Sri Damodar College of Commerce and Economics, Margao, Goa. Requesting all the till further instructions. All the participants are requested to write the questions in the chat box for discussions during the question-answer session. Now, I request our principal, Dr. Preeta D. Malla, to welcome the address, to give the welcome address.
Good morning to all the participants present here. Before I begin, before I welcome you, I would again request all the participants, please do not switch on your videos. I think some of you are experimenting, so some of you are presenting also some presentations on the screen. Please don't do that. Switch off your videos and please mute your microphones. Please, it's an earnest request. It will improve the quality of the session. Thank you. On behalf of Sri Damodar College of Commerce and Economics, I welcome all of you to this webinar. Although remotely, we are very happy to see so many people here today. A very special welcome to the speaker of the day, CA Shivdat Ambe, who has done very well for himself, holding a very good position. We are all extremely proud of Shivdat, who is a distinguished alumnus, a distinguished ex-student of this college. This is the third webinar in our career series. We've had two already. One is in the area of financial services, and the second is in the area of computer applications and software technologies. This webinar is related to careers in commerce, finance, and accounting management, basically careers that you can pursue if you do a BCom degree. An undergraduate degree in commerce is, I think, one of the most versatile of all undergraduate degrees. Although a student may specialize in accounting, may specialize in finance, management, business studies, he or she also learns, a little bit of different subjects like economics, mathematics, computer applications, statistics, English, business law, all of which equip the student to take up any kind. There are so many job opportunities open because a commerce graduate has such a wonderful broad-based education in so many fields. And I would also like to mention here that Sri Damodar College is one of the few colleges in Goa which offers all the electives that Goa University has approved. For example, we offer tourism, we offer management of micro, small and medium enterprises, we offer insurance, so that the student can get a taste of various subjects and decide where his or her interests are and where his or her career should be. So with that, once again, a welcome to all of you, and a special welcome to Shivdat. Back to college, but in a different role and a different mode this time. Welcome. Thank you. And an appeal to students, once again, please switch off your videos and don't present. Thank you.
I now request Professor and BCom Coordinator, Dr. Edwin Barreto, to brief about the college.
A very good morning to all the participants in the webinar. I have the pleasant task of briefing the participants about Damodar College and BCom course. Damodar College is one of the first commerce colleges in South Goa. The BCom and other courses offered at Damodar College are under choice-based credit system. The faculty are well qualified and experienced, with most having PhD to their credit and research publications. The teachers use interactive and participative teaching methods such as case study, group discussion, role play, presentations, flipped classes, etc. Each student is assigned a teacher mentor, and there is full-time counselor available on campus to address student issues. Industry embedment is a unique initiative at Damodar College, wherein teachers spend time in the industry and share industry experience with students. To make commerce graduates employable and start their own business, each student has to undergo add-on skill certificate courses like life skills, etc. Remedial classes are conducted for students who could not understand the matter in regular classroom, or for those who miss the classes due to college events, etc. Merit coaching is conducted for advanced learners too. The college is a recognized PhD center under Goa University under Commerce, Management and Economics. The college has a career guidance cell and organizes annual placement fair with rigorous pre-placement training. The college has NCC, Army and Naval Wing for both boys and girls, and has an active NSS unit and Red Ribbon Club. Coaching classes for MBA, MCA and bank recruitment exams are conducted regularly on campus. The faculty also regularly takes students on field trips and college tours to places within and outside India like Thailand, Bhutan, Nepal, etc. The college library is well stocked with e-resources and books. The college has enhanced borrowing limits for advanced learners. Another unique thing about Damodar College is that students are represented on all the college committees and councils. The college has linkages with industry and educational institutions like Christ University, St. Aloysius, Podar College, Pune College, Wagiri College, etc. The college has sports facilities with indoor stadium and gymnasium, and the college is a regular winner of major sports events in Goa. The teaching by the faculty is ICT based with use of LCD projector and PPTs, and the classroom and campus is Wi-Fi enabled. Book bank facility is extended to needy students, and the Student Cooperative Society supplies books and other stationery items at discounted rates. Now, these are some of the campus facilities which I have already specified earlier. Now we come to the BCom course. BCom is the flagship course of Damodar College. Sri Damodar College is the most sought after college in Goa by the students. Damodar College is the only college in Goa offering BCom General and BCom Honors degree course. The college offers wide choice of electives at all the 3 years of graduation. The college is ICAI accredited center for CA CPT coaching classes. Students can pursue CA course along with BCom. The college organizes national level student colloquium titled Niti Samvad and also regularly conducts research paper student seminar presentation. The BCom students have to undergo add-on certificate courses in Excel, Tally, digital marketing, banking, etc. The annual budget is screened and analyzed with panel discussion on campus. Many commerce-related activities and competitions are conducted by the Commerce Club and Economics Club. Commerce students are regularly taken for study and industrial visits to top financial institutions like BSE, NSE, SEBI, RBI, MCX, and companies like IFB, Mahindra, TVS, Bosch, Toyota, etc. The unique thing about the BCom at Damodar College is summer internship, wherein students gain practical skills in industry during holidays. The BCom course related documents are a lecture series with industry experts invited on campus to share practical knowledge with students. Academic excellence is the top priority And we at Damodar College continuously strive towards ensuring that students reach their full potential. The college provides students a platform to excel. The students have to only grab the opportunity that come their way. For further details, you can contact me on my contact number or on the college website.
Thank you, sir. Assistant Professor Marjina Sheikh, it's your privilege to introduce the resource person for today's webinar.
Good morning, one and all. It's my privilege to introduce CA Shivadat Ambe. He is an alumnus of our college. He has completed his MBA from the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. He is a qualified chartered accountant and a certified internal auditor. Currently, he is working as a logistics finance manager with Amazon, Middle East, and North Africa. He is based in Dubai and has around 14 years of experience in planning, project financing, auditing, and mergers and acquisitions. Mr. Ambe possesses invaluable experience of working in and leading multiple cross-functional and cross-cultural teams from 14 different countries spread across 5 different continents. He has worked closely with senior management teams on several strategic initiatives, ranging from launching new products to exploring new business opportunities and models. He is also a trained tabla player and a passionate singer. I welcome you, sir, and request you to take over the session.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I think it's a privilege and honor to be a part of this session. It almost takes me back 20 years when I was a part of this wonderful institution. I think a lot of memories that are associated with Damodar, and really, really happy to be a part of this session. And thanks to Madam Preetamalya as well as Dr. Edwin Barreto for making me a part of it. Obviously, the expectations were set. I'll try to meet them as much as possible within the short time that we have. But overall, I think the intention is to make this session as interactive, fruitful, and productive as possible. So let me just share my screen. Yeah, so can you all see my screen? Great. I can see a few yes there. So just to briefly introduce myself, and thanks for that introduction. I think it's good to kind of just start off by introducing myself and kind of let you know what I'm currently doing here out in the Middle East. So so I'm Shiva Tombe. Professionally, I manage transportation finance for Amazon Middle East, and I'm based out of Dubai. So in layman's language, what this essentially means is every delivery that comes to you from Amazon, I essentially look into the transportation and ensure that the cost is optimized to whatever extent possible. So right from the time it hits our delivery station to the time it goes to the customer, that is you. So I need to ensure that it happens at an optimal and a reduced cost. Academically, I'm a chartered accountant. I've done my MBA from the Indian School of Business, class of 2012. I'm also a certified internal auditor and recently completed my certification in fraud examination. So just for you to get to know me, I've traveled to around 19 different countries across the globe, worked with different cultures. I have some pictures out there just to give you a flavor of my experiences. My longest international stint has been
Sorry to
2 wonderful
interrupt.
years in Mannheim. See my slide now. Yeah, so where I was I've traveled to around 19 different countries, and I have some pictures out there just to give you a flavor of what my experience has been. My longest international stint has been 2 wonderful years in Mannheim, Germany, where I was heading the corporate internal audit function for a company called John Deere, and followed by my current stint in Dubai. So I've been in Dubai for about a year and a half now. As a passion, yes, I enjoy cooking. Signature dish is very Goan caramel pudding, and I love reading, music, movies, and cricket. Well, I'm a true Goan at heart, but not quite by taste because not quite fond of seafood. And I'm a huge fan of Goan beaches. You can see it in the picture there. So, just to start my presentation, so the way I have kind of structured this presentation is I'll be moving from a lot of generic stuff to the specifics, which Ma'am Preeta Malya spoke about. In addition to that, I'll also be focusing on some of the prominent careers within the realm of commerce, and hopefully should be in a position to answer the questions that you may have in the last 15 minutes of the presentation. Uh, what to expect from this presentation. So I want to give you a very practical perspective on what are the prominent courses on offer within commerce, what it takes to build a career in finance, accounting, and commerce. So it's not just about the formal education. What are the personality traits or innate abilities that you probably need to possess or develop over a period of time in order to grow in the field of finance and accounting. Um, and the third area of focus is what have been my key learnings. So over a period of 14 to 15 years that I've been in the industry, it would be great to share some of my thoughts and learnings with you and invite your feedback and perspectives as well. Uh, my presentation, this is just a disclaimer, my presentation does not cover any untested theories. What I mean by this is you wouldn't find any bookish or theoretical knowledge out here in this. I know there are plenty of websites and there's plenty of information on the internet which can probably guide you on that. But overall, this is kind of my experiences in the last 14 to 15 years that have assimilated into this presentation. So yeah, just as a disclaimer, there are no untested theories per se. It's also an attempt to filter out the myths from the facts, the conventional way of thinking to a kind of an attempt to change the whole thought process. And that's how I would like to start my presentation. So in terms of changing the thought process, and this is very, very generic in terms of how you choose your career, whether it's going to be chartered accountancy, something in to do with business administration, or something as regulatory as CS or a law. I think the basics that we need to be aware of is try to get rid of some of these things. So first thing that come to your mind is, what my parents want me to do, and that's very, very normal. You should definitely have their perspective, not asking you to completely ignore it, but eventually it is what I want to do, right? Secondly, it's a very natural thought process. What are my friends doing? Should I pursue the similar or a kind of a same kind of a roadmap which they have adopted? Well, again, there's a different way of thinking about it. What sort of career is aligned with my personality and my desires? So it's very natural to think. It happened to me as well as a graduate. I know a couple of friends who relocated or migrated to places like New Zealand and Australia straight after their graduation, did their MBAs there. Was very easy for me to get carried away, but obviously I knew that I had a completely different path which matched my desires and personality. What made them successful will make me as well. Again, a very common thought process. Uh, just because Mark Zuckerberg was a college dropout, can I create a Facebook as well? Well, doesn't really work that way. There probably could be instances in his life which completely changed things for him. So uh, exceptions cannot be example. We need to be aware of this, understand your situation, and act accordingly. You need to define your own benchmark of success. What can help me get there? Um, I'm a mediocre student, so commerce is the right career option for me. Again, a conventional thought process, right? I think everybody thinks of commerce as something that is second to science. You get a mediocre percentage, okay, you're meant for commerce. Not quite the thing. What you need to think about is commerce offers a variety of opportunities. So commerce it is. And thanks to Dr. Edwin Barreto for highlighting some of the new developments that have happened within Damodars. I think a lot of it was missing. I think the institution has evolved over a period of time, and I think it's time to take advantage of it. I'm really happy for you guys. There's a lot of competition that I need to cope with. I think this is always a threat as to what is it that I can expect as I progress in my career. What sort of competition? Just bear in mind that it's just the former performance that you're competing with, which will kind of put less pressure on you. Make sure that you are growing as an individual. Your personality is growing. What you did in the past, you're doing better than that. So these are some of the things that you kind of need to ingrain in your mind before you even start thinking of a career. I mean, I'm not just referring to a career in commerce or finance here. Uh, Overall, I think it's important to bear some of these thoughts in mind. There's some food for thought. I think there are multiple alternatives. There are multiple career options when you think of commerce, right? And I'll briefly touch upon some of them. But indeed, it's very easy to get confused, and honestly, I have seen this phase of career when I used to hear about a different course pretty much every day, and then get fascinated to it and think about how I can get into this course and where it will take me. But eventually, I think it's important that you get out of that confusion. It's good to stay in that zone for some period of time because it makes you curious. It makes you more and more inclined towards learning about a particular course, deep dive further into it. So it's good to have that confusion for some period of time, but it's not good to stay confused, right? So it's important to get out of it, try and gain as much information as possible, and understand what the right options for you are. And each alternative, when you come across a particular course and when you come across a particular career option, each alternative will kind of compete with one another, right? So it's not going to be like everything is complementing each other. It's going to be quite a competitive thing. So you'll have to pick one over the other. So there are decisions to be made. There's information to be gained before you make those decisions, and it should be a thoughtful process. Again, very important that you choose careers based on academics, your personality, your desires. When I say academics, again, you need to make sure that you perform that reality check wherein you know that okay, what you're good at, what are your weaknesses, what are your development areas, what are the areas where you need to kind of groom or sharpen your skills. Your personality overall, I think, plays a critical role. If you are someone who is an introvert, more fond of desk job, kind of an accounting job, uh, that's then you know how to pursue your next steps. But at the same time, if you're someone outgoing extrovert, there are other careers as well within the realm of finance, like consulting, M&As, strategic consulting, wherein you go and meet your clients, you like to speak to people, you like to improve on your interpersonal skills. So there are multiple careers within finance based on your personality as well. In addition to that, obviously, your desire plays a critical role. You don't want to be doing something that's beyond your likes, right? So it's important that you choose something that's within the realm of your desires. And there's always going to be a bit of imbalance between the options that you have and the expectations that your parents may have, right? So there could be this peer pressure or parent pressure, which will always play on your mind. But it's important that you think about it independently in an unbiased and objective way, so that you make the right decisions. how do you plan your career, right? So again, I'm now trying to get into the specifics, but it's important, to have this introduction. So thought it's I would focus on this for a bit. I think self-assessment important that you perform a bit of SWOT. Not too sure if you all are aware of this analysis, but it's understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, what are your opportunities, and what are your threats. Um, what are the various academic and career options, understand, evaluate, and prioritize, interact with the right people. I think these kind of interactions are extremely important, but obviously it's not going to be lasting for more than 45 to 45 minutes to an hour. So I think it's important that, if you have any questions, I'll share my email ID with you. Just feel free to bounce off ideas, or in case you need any feedback or comments on your thought process, I think I'll be more than happy to do so. In addition to that, you have a whole repository of knowledge within the institution that you're operating in, right? So you have all your professors who are there to guide you, to help you understand, whether you're thinking in the right direction or not. It's important to read. It's important to dream, wish, hope, right? So I think it's very, very important that you gain as much information as possible before you make these critical decisions. And have a very hello. Is my screen still visible to you all? Hello.
No, sir, it's not visible.
Can you see it now? Hello.
Yes, sir, it is
Yes, sir, it's
visible
visible now.
Great. Yeah. So so important to have a very practical perspective as well, right? So just to understand what is possible for you and what is not. There are again multiple choices that you need to make. It moves from the macro level to a micro level, understanding all the options that you have before you kind of get to a micro decision. And it's important to manage your career. So once you get there, once you complete a course, it's also important that you do perform a kind of a reality check at regular intervals. um, I think there's always going to be a kind of a battle between the brand, job profile, and compensation. If you get all three, nothing like it. But it's important to kind of define these priorities, and then you have to plan your new moves as well. So let me now start off with talking about chartered accountancy. I think this is something that uh, every commerce student, I think, hears about the moment he steps into this field, right? So I think this is probably the most glamorous of all the courses that you can do post commerce. And I think as we progress with this presentation, let's try and also self-assess whether this course is suitable for you or not. I think there are multiple websites, there's information available on the net which can help you out with this decision. But just for starters, I would like to touch upon some of the things that you could possibly do in this vertical. So chartered accountancy or chartered accountant is a core of all business, regardless of whether it is big or small, right? So it doesn't really matter how big your business is or how small it is. You would need a chartered accountant to audit your books of accounts, to kind of manage your taxes. So there are a whole lot of services that a chartered accountant would provide you. So it's important that you understand what kind of roles you would be signing up for when you get into this profession. Um, the usual first step to a rewarding career in finance investment consulting, and fund management. So if you're thinking of some of these careers, then chartered accountancy is probably the first step you need to take. So if you want to become a finance professional, be it within corporate finance, be it a consultant relating to finance, an investment consultant, or a fund manager, I think it's kind of a nascent step that you initially need to take, and then you can probably think of adding it up with an MBA or any other qualification. But I think it usually starts with chartered accountancy. When do you start this course? So the moment you complete your 10 plus 2, your 12th, I think that's when you start pondering over, how you're going to progress with your chartered accountancy. So you have something called a foundation. So that's the entry level for the chartered accountancy course. There are also other ways of doing it, wherein wait till you complete your graduation. But I think Dr. Barreto just highlighted that Damodar offers coaching in foundation courses. So I think it's ideal to start early, so that you are in a position to kind of complete this course at an early age. So it usually starts straight after your 12th standard. You prepare for the entry level test while pursuing your first year of graduation. So the moment you register for your first year of graduation, I think in parallel you also need to register with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for the foundation course. I think it's called Professional Education 1 now. Back then, when I completed it, was foundation. So in fact, I was coached by Damodar faculty for my foundation course, and I think it was a great experience. So I would encourage all of you to consider. So just in case you're considering CA as your long-term career, then I think I would definitely encourage you all to consider foundation at an early stage. What are the preferred course options? I think it's always good to have mathematics and accounting background, because eventually it's all about numbers. So I think it's not a necessity, but obviously it will help you in terms of some of the courses that you will study in your PE1, your professional education ones, that is the entry level of CA, will kind of coincide with these two subjects. So I think having that base will definitely help you gauge things faster. So is it the right career for me? Yeah. So base qualification ideally is commerce. So I think you all are on the right path, and I believe that all of you are commerce students. But it's open for students with arts and science background as well. So when you register for chartered accountancy, it's not a prerequisite for you to be a commerce student. You can always do it post your arts or with a science background as well. In fact, I have a couple of colleagues who have arts background, and they have completed this course successfully and doing extremely well in their career. So that's a big positive. I think one of your mics is on. Hello? If you could just turn it off. Yeah. So what would it cost me? Well, one call out here. It's one of the most economical courses that you could ever find, right? So if you look at the rate of return post you complete the chartered accountancy course and the amount of investment that you would be putting in, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of time that you put in. But in terms of the fees and the total cost in monetary terms, I think it will be a lot lower if you compare it with some of the other courses that one may think of. So, I mean, few of the courses that come to your mind is engineering and medical. So you end up investing a lot in these courses, but eventually, I think a chartered accountant would probably end up earning as much as an engineer from a top institute would by investing hardly 20 to 25,000 rupees. So the investment is fairly low. It really depends on how soon you can complete the exam, whether it's self-study, whether you end up taking coaching classes. It could range anywhere between 20,000 to probably a lack, but still pretty low in comparison to some of the other courses. A channel to different roles. So, as a chartered accountant, what you would eventually do is you would probably start off with auditing activities. So that's what you do initially. So you need to undergo articleship, which is a professional training under a practicing chartered accountant. So invariably, you would be touching upon areas like auditing, taxation, when you're undergoing these trainings. But eventually, when you complete the course, there are a whole different realm of opportunities that would probably open up to you. So for a more fulfilling career in finance, you can specialize in accounting. You can do financial planning and analysis. When I say FP&A, what I essentially mean is driving forecasts for some of the corporates. I think Professor Edwin just spoke about Mahindras and TCS's coming to the campus. So when a Mahindra kind of estimates its projections for the year, what the financials for the next year would look like based on the volumes and the sales that their marketing team would come up with. So you'll be drawing up the overall financials for the next few months or the next year or so, just to give them a flavor of how the company is heading financially. So that's what FP&A involves. Taxation, that's something we all know. Managing taxes for corporates as well as individuals. Investment consulting, banking, I think that's again, so that's more to do with M&As and project financing. I think these are some of the more fulfilling careers that CA can help you achieve. And there are other consulting services as well, which is so. So the roadmap, if I can kind of summarize in a nutshell, would look like you would start with auditing, and I'm not too sure what all of you are aware, of what auditing means. So it's essentially performing a kind of a post-mortem exercise on the financials, just to understand, whether where possibly a company has gone wrong in terms of adhering to the accounting standards and stuff like that. So you would essentially start with auditing, and then you can probably dive into some of the other careers which I've just listed here. Now here's some practical information. I think it's if you want the details, it's available on the website. But just to give you a flavor as to how you need to progress once you have your 12th standard results. So first thing you do is you register yourself for the Common Proficiency course. So that's a 1-year course. Again, re-emphasizing on the fact that Damodar is offering coaching for it. So you can do it in parallel with your first year BCom, and ideal to do it that way because kind of saves you a lot of time rather than waiting for you to complete the BCom. So you start off in parallel, complete the 2 courses. So that's the first stage. You appear for your CPT exam straight after your BCom. So you'd probably be completing your BCom by March 2021. And straight after that in May, usually CA exams happen twice a year in May and November. So in May of 2021, you would probably end up giving your CPT, which is your entry level course for CA. Once you complete your CPT, you join something called the Integrated Professional Competence, which is the IPC course, which is the next level of CA. You straight away register yourself once you clear CA. In parallel, again, so it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of time commitment because you are doing your BCom, you have your CA. In addition to that, you have something called the article training, which is your professional training under practicing CA. So you need to complete that before. Straight after passing, you're completing the training, you can answer your group 1 or both the groups of intermediate course, and then you have the final course, which will essentially come up when you are serving the last 6 months of your article training. So it's usually 3 years of article training that you need to go through. And I think it's a great experience because you get to learn a lot at a very, very early stage. You get a flavor of what a chartered accountant does. So I think this professional training really helps in a big way. And once you complete the course, I think that's going to be a big day when you enroll as a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, and you'll be designated chartered accountant. So I think these are this is just a summary of the next steps that you need to take in order to pursue a course in chartered accountancy. So these are some numbers just to give you a flavor of how this works. So the average starting package of a chartered accountant is approximately 7 to 8 lakhs per annum, which is quite a good start considering the investment that we just spoke about. The demand for CAs is growing at the rate of 10 to 15% year to year. I think this is a very, very important statistic to know. So if the demand for CA this year was 100, that is, the industry requires 100 chartered accountants in 2020. In 2021, it will be approximately 110 to 115. So the demand is constantly growing. But in terms of the recent trends, if you talk about the passing percentage, it's a very, very tough course to clear, mind you. So the passing percentage is barely 7 to 8%. So it requires a lot of effort, a bit of luck, in order to get through this course. So you can clearly see there is a significant shortage in term if you compare it with the year-on-year demand. So again, it just re-emphasizes on the fact that how much scope you have as a chartered accountant, considering the demand that the industry has. Next course I would like to touch upon is Masters in Business Administration. Again, a lot of you folks might have heard of this course and probably aspire to be one or do one once you complete your graduation. So let's get to know a bit about this. So again, just as CA had an entry-level exam, just making it to a B school is never going to be easy. And I'm talking about a top B school here. There are other autonomous institutions which are probably low-ranked schools, which conduct their own examination. But if you want to make it to the top-notch schools, I'm sure you guys have heard of the likes of IIMs and the ISBs. So if you want to make it to any of these schools, or not just Indian school for that matter, even the foreign schools, you would probably need to answer one of these two exams, which is the Common Aptitude Test for Indian schools and the GMAT for foreign schools. So if you're aspiring to do your MBA in the US, say 7 or 8 years down the line, that's the exam that you need to take. What are these exams all about? These tests comprise of English, quants, data interpretation, and essays. So it's not very easy. So you'll be tested on your English grammar skills. When I talk about quants, I mean mathematics. So there are quite a few topics that you need to, and you're always short of time, mind you. So you need to be extremely quick when you think through some of the problems that come your way in these entrance exams. Then there is data interpretations. You'll probably be given a pie chart and then try to analyze some of the data that the chart shows. And then you have essays. So there are some restricted number of words. You'll be given a topic, and you need to jot down your thoughts around that specific topic. So it's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of preparation. A lot of people take about 6 to 7 months break just to prepare for these kind of exams, because it's super critical for you to to take you to a top big school. So it has a comprehensive application as well, and it's not just enough to clear these tests. And obviously, it's not just about clearing. So you'll be ranked against different students, right? So you need to kind of maximize your performance, maximize your score to whatever extent possible, so that you have a higher rank and a higher probability of getting into one of the best schools in India. The application is quite comprehensive. You need to share a lot of details there. Once you are done with the test, then there are a next rounds of assessment. You have your personal interviews. You have group discussions. So you'll probably be thrown into a group, given a topic, and then you'll be assessed as to how you kind of communicate your thoughts, your clarity of of ideas. So all of these are important in order to see you through into your journey to a B school. So if you can see your analytical skills, your language skills, your data interpretation skills, your communication skills, your the clarity with which you think and communicate your thoughts. I think all of these things would essentially be tested just in your journey, which will take you to a top B school. So it's not even that you've made it to that school yet. It's just a journey. So it's just a decision point where you are kind of in a limbo. You're trying to figure out whether you'll make it to the school or not. And once you clear all of this, then you get into a B school. So these are some of the specializations that are offered by business schools. I'll be focusing more on finance, but there are others like strategy, marketing, information technology, operations, international business. So I think a lot of this does not really depend on what you have done in the past. So it doesn't really mean that just because you are a commerce student, you need to go for finance, or just because you are an accounting student, you need to go for finance, right? There are no rules like those. You can still opt for things like marketing if you have a passion to do so, IT if you have a technological bent of mind, operations, international. All these are extremely exciting specializations, but I think let's cross the bridge when you get there. But it all opens you up to fantastic careers post your MBA. Now, value add of an MBA. Let's do some comparison between CA and an MBA, because these are probably two of the top courses that one has on his mind whenever he takes up commerce as his option, career option, right? So, just comparing the two. So, learning grammar and writing an essay are two different things, right? So, accounting might be the grammar, but MBA is like poetry or prose. So what I mean by this is accounting will make you operate into certain kind of a regulatory environment, right? So you'll have various accounting and auditing standards to adhere to. You'll have corporate law. You'll have so many other accounting principles, which so it kind of restricts your thought process. So every time you find yourself in a dilemma as to how to deal or how to solve this particular accounting problem, you'll probably be going back to your accounting standards and finding out, okay, how to deal with or how to solve this particular issue, right? So, but an MBA is not like that. MBA is a free-flowing course which kind of gives you to generate those ideas. A lot of these new entrepreneurs, or a lot of these people who kind of own a startup would be MBAs. Very few accountants that you would find in this area. So it kind of gives you the liberty to think beyond those standards which an accountant is used to. So these are very, very two distinct professions, I would say. They complement each other well, and why they do so is an MBA provides opportunities to spend quality time with like-minded people in a highly intellectual environment. So what I mean by this is when you get into a top B school, you'll see that the kind of ecosystem you develop around you, it's full of intellect, it's full of knowledge. All you need to do is interact with people, and every interaction will probably give you a couple of takeaways. So you get to learn a lot. It's a very highly intellectual environment that you groom yourself in, whereas CA is more of an isolated course, wherein if you're not being coached, because CA it's kind of an essentially correspondence or a self-study course, right? Eventually, whether you take coaching or not, there are a lot of private coaching classes. That's at your option. Now, for instance, I completed my CA in Goa. I was coached by Damodar for my foundation, but eventually I decided that I'll probably try and do it on my own. and thankfully got through it. So it's a lot of self-study. You kind of have to lock yourself in a room and be that, have that discipline to complete all of those chapters. It involves a lot of reading, mind you. So I think, yeah, so CA is very, very different from MBA. MBA is more of a classroom and a highly intellectual environment that you groom yourself in. In addition to that, CA plus an MBA is always a preferred option when it comes to some of the front end roles like investment banking, which we just spoke about. CA is a great starting point, but if you want to grow in that space and you want to find yourself to the next level every couple of years, then you probably need to opt for an MBA from a good B school. Business strategy roles, business consulting roles, I think it's always a great combination to have under your belt. In addition to these, I think so far we have seen CA and MBA coming out as the top-notch career options when you talk about a career in commerce, finance, and accounting, right? So in addition to this, there are quite a few other options as well for corporate careers. So you can look at cost accounting, which is a cost and management accountant. It used to be called cost and works accountant, but I think it's been 5 to 6 years now. They've changed switched the name to cost and management accountant. So what they do is usually at the end of it, you'll normally find yourself in working in a manufacturing unit. So it's a lot to do with plant finance, costing of different products. So if you say, for instance, Mahindra is manufacturing a tractor. So what all goes to it? What all goes into it, right? So right from the chassis to assembling and all the other different units or materials that go into that product. So you need to kind of assess the cost of material, then the cost of labor, your overheads. So it's kind of understanding the manufacturing environment well. So cost accounting, again, you'll find a lot of information on their website. It's icmai.com if I'm not wrong, but I have a list of websites which you can browse through at the end of the presentation. But yeah, so that's again a very good career to have, but again, restricted in comparison to a chartered accountant or an MBA. It's probably less glamorous, less popular, but a career to have in case you are inclined to technology options. Again, this is to do with laws. If you have less inclination towards numbers and accounting, but you are very inclined towards the regulatory environment and understanding what corporate or company law has to offer, then this can be a useful course as well. So essentially, where you will find this is again very similar to CA. It's offered by an independent body called ICSI, Institute of Company Secretaries of India. So the process that is followed in terms of registering yourself for both these courses, cost accounting and company secretaryship, is very, very similar to that of CA, just that you do not have any practical training. So CA would have 3 years of articleship training, whereas these two courses, I think they have recently introduced 6 months of training, which is much easier than 3 years. So it kind of gives you a lot more time to invest in your studies. So again, a lot of reading to do, a lot of laws, different sort of laws. You think of company law, you think of Insurance Act. You learn a lot about stock market. So I think it again opens up a completely different stream of career to you. It's very, very different from CA, but again, huge demand for company secretaries as well. So if you do not have that inclination or bent towards numbers, then this is a great career to pursue as well. In addition to that, you have LLB, which is hardcore law. And again, there are some top institutes. I've named one here, National Law School, which is like the IIMs of the management arena in terms of law. So NLS is probably by far the best institute, which is located in Bangalore. And if you, the moment you think of legal education, I think the first thing that comes to your mind is National Law School. But obviously, there are multiple options within Goa as well. There's VM Salgaonkar. There are other institutes that are offering this course. So shouldn't really stop you from pursuing this as a career option. Yeah. So talking about, so we have already spoken about the formal education that is needed to develop or groom yourself in finance, accounting, and commerce. Right. We've spoken about 5 odd courses so far, all different from each other. In different scenarios, some of them can complement each other as well. So you'll find a lot of triple qualified people as well. So you have, I know of people who have done CA, CS, and CWA. Takes a lot of time, but again, it kind of improves your career options. Now let's move on to some of the intrinsic or some of the innate abilities that you need to possess or develop to be a good finance and accounting professional. So interpersonal skills, obviously, you need to have that flavor for numbers. You need to be in a position to communicate numbers, right? So it's not very easy to make sense out of numbers. So you need to understand and convey what message the numbers are trying to portray, right? So reading of financial statements, I think all of this you are going to learn as you progress in your career within BCom itself, as to how you read different financial statements, how you come up with those ratios, and then how you try and make sense out of those numbers. So I think reading those numbers and communicating them well, I think it's one of the most critical part of this profession. Insights and analysis, I think most companies, in case you are in a corporate career or you are in a practice as a chartered accountant, most of your clients and your internal stakeholders that you are dealing with on a day-to-day basis in that particular company will depend on you for insights and analysis, right? So so you are like the data warehouse within that organization. They'll bank on you for different aspects of data, different aspects of, so you'll be kind of guiding them through every time they come up to you with a question. Leadership, I think as you grow as a finance professional, it's important to have those leadership skills, and I'll touch upon some of the leadership aspects later in my presentation. Improvement. I think as a finance professional, you always need to think about improvement. It's not just about accepting the status quo. You'll know how things are running within a specific organization or with one of your clients. But at the same time, you keep questioning yourself as to how things can improve. From a process standpoint, from a cost standpoint, from a volume standpoint, from a sales standpoint, pricing. So all of these are different aspects of business, which will always come to your mind when it comes to improving different things. So you always need to question some of your stakeholders on areas that can be improved, and this could be any kind of improvement. So improvement is one thing that you need to think every time you are in these scenarios. So prioritization, I think this as a profession is not very different from some of the other professions. It's very, very deadline driven. I would say it's more stringent in terms of deadline when it comes to delivering results. So you will never be asked to execute a job at a leisurely pace, right? You'll always have timelines to meet, especially when you talk about, say, for instance, releasing your financials, you're closing your books of accounts for that particular month, or quarter, or year. You'll always be working against timelines. So it's important that you prioritize works, and that's a skill in itself. And what I would suggest you is, even when you are kind of going through this whole journey of getting into a top B school, or preparing for some of these exams like CS or CA or CWA or CMA or whatsoever, it's important that you understand what the past trends have been in terms of what are the kind of questions that have been asked in the past. What is the institute is okay, what sort of questions the institute has been asking in the past question papers, kind of build that trend and accordingly prioritize your studies so that you get into that habit of understanding your priorities. So this could help you in your BCom as well, not just these competitive exams, but it's important that you learn and develop that skill, which will help you in your long run as well. Solution oriented. So more often than not, people within the organization or your client will walk up to you with a problem, right? So every time as a chartered accountant or as any as a consultant within the finance world or accounting world, if a client invites you for a coffee, it's not going to be a simple coffee. It's always going to be a problem that he's going to share with you, and he's going to expect you to come back with a solution, right? So you have to develop that solution-oriented mindset. So just don't look into problems. Just see, how you can solve those. So there could be reference points. As I told you, CAs end up working with a highly regulated or in a highly very regulated environment. So you may need to keep going back to your accounting standards to solve some of those problems. Business partner. So if you're working in the corporates, you'll always be perceived as a business partner. So you are not detached from the business. You're very much attached to it. You may not be driving the volumes or the sales for the business directly. That will be probably done by sales and marketing. But eventually, you need to partner them and let them know that, okay, to achieve these results, to achieve this sort of a profitability, this is how we need to price our products. So when a Mahindra talks about a tractor or a new launch, the marketing guy will always want to come or bring down the price so that he can show higher targets or higher volumes. But as a finance guy, you need to challenge those decisions. So you're always partnering the business all throughout. So just to end my presentation now, I'll just give you a flavor of my key learnings, my key takeaways in my 14 to 15 years of career, right? So the first one is take time to understand yourself, right? Your likes, your preferences. What is it that you want to do? What are your desires? What do you want to focus on? Is it compensation? Is it a career of your choice? So all of these, I think, is eventually going to help you take those good decisions. And it's not just about yourself. You also need to kind of have a sounding board. It could be a parent who is already a practicing CA or a chartered accountant or a profession that is already into a profession that you want to get into. I think it's always good to have that sounding board around you. And if you don't really have one, then you can always bank on your professors or people like me who have some, who may have 2 cents to share on your thought process. In addition to that, just remember that ambition can neither be injected nor can it be imitated. So don't think about uh, injecting an ambition within yourself, right? It is not external. I think it's deep within yourself. All you need to do is kind of think deeper, introspect, perform reality checks, and figure out for yourself as to what you want to do, what you want to achieve. It cannot be external. Obviously, you can get that information, additional information that you need from an external source through a website, by meeting people, by talking to people, by reading. But eventually, I think what you want to do cannot be injected from an external source or cannot be imitated. So you cannot say that, okay, just my friend has taken up CA Foundation, so let me also take a plunge into it. So it has to come from you. Hello? Hello? I think somebody has switched on the mic. Yeah, thank you. So just a couple of slides, and I'll open up the session for question and answers. Again, success is subjective, so define your own benchmark of success. Success will evolve. The definition of success will evolve as you progress in your career, right? So it's not going to be a fixed benchmark that you're looking at, that this is what success is, right? Success to me may not be the same as what success means to you, right? So for me, I have my priorities. I know where I need to be 5 years down the line. I know what I need to focus on. I don't want to be an individual who did nothing in his career but just focus on his work at the age of 50 and find myself doing, who has not done anything for his family, or haven't had that important me time, or family time. So I want to kind of be an individual who has balanced it all throughout, and have that kind of a life which makes me feel content at a later stage. So I think success will differ from person to person. What success? So let's not have a fixed definition of success. Let's make it fluid and flexible. Now, this is a line which came from Madam Preeta Malya. I still remember back in my BCom days, those were the best days probably. And she once mentioned, and it just stuck to my mind, it's still deeply ingrained in my psyche, hard work can substitute intelligence, but only intelligence cannot substitute hard work. So it has to be a combination of the two. Uh, uh, Pure hard work can see you places. I mean, think of someone like Rahul Dravid. I mean, all of you all, I'm sure, are cricket fans, right? You may not be as talented, or rather the naturally talented as Sachin Tendulkar was, but probably achieved as much as Sachin did, right? May not be exactly terms of numbers, but he's still a legend, right? Purely on the basis of hard work. But at the same time, only intelligence or only talent can probably get you nowhere. Classic example, Vinod Kamli, right? So there are these instances in different walks of life that you can kind of understand as to how their careers panned out, and if they spanned out well, why it happened so. If they didn't, what went wrong. So I think it's good to have opinion on different things. It's good to kind of learn from different walks of life. So I would encourage you to do that. So bear in mind that intelligence can definitely give you that X factor, but hard work is probably going to be the nucleus of whatever you will achieve. Chew Finance, a newspaper for breakfast. I think super critical, super critical. I think develop that reading habit. Without this, it will really be difficult for you to kind of communicate or show your potential as a finance professional. I think what reading will help you do is develop opinions, right? So what happened recently, for instance, Reliance has already sold 11% of the stake. So how was it valued? How are businesses valued? What did they sell? Right. So what do you mean by selling stakes? So these are some of the questions that should come up in your mind. You can ask your friends. You can talk to your friends. You can read a bit about it from the internet. Just Google. If you don't understand something, there's Google. Right. So it's important that you develop that reading habit. If you want to be a finance professional, then I think the earlier you start, the better it is. And it will also tell you whether you're meant for this line or career option or not. So let's be very realistic about it. It's important that you start slow, but eventually, I think once you get there, it's important that you start chewing a finance newspaper for breakfast. And when I say chewing, I don't mean in little terms, but all I'm trying to say is try and cover as much of the newspaper as possible. It's a great start to the day as well. Parents' attitude, always a determining factor in shaping one's career goal. So important that it's not just your parents helping you, you too help your parents understand what their role in your life is in terms of shaping up your career. But so I think that level of communication, or that constant communication line between you and your parents, is super critical, because I think that's when, as I spoke earlier in my presentation, that's where you will get that sounding board. Focus on passion or compensation. If you get both, you're lucky. Let's be very practical about it. Passion, yes, I think it's good to have a career that you're passionate about, but eventually, if you need to define your priorities. If you want to be someone who focuses on, who has a lot of dreams in terms of materialistic stuff, then obviously compensation will also play a critical role. So let's be very realistic. You need to strike a balance between the two. At times, you may find one, you may not find the other. There are people who mold themselves to make sure that they say, for instance, if I'm an investment banker, but I'm not really keen about that profession, I may try to find the good things in that profession because I know that it's giving me great results in terms of compensation. So why not live with it? Why not find the positive aspects in it? So there are a lot of people who do that as well. There are a lot of people who bank on, say, for instance, okay, I'm a writer. So be it so, it may not give me the best of results in monetary terms, but yes, I think it's something that I enjoy. But if you get both, mind you, super lucky. Fine, my final slide, and then we can open up the forum. So this is something that I've deeply ingrained in the last 5 years with Amazon. It's a great company to work with, and one of the reasons is these 14 leadership principles that Amazon follows. This is something that I thought will be a good way to end the presentation. In every walk of life, regardless of what career you choose, I think I'm no longer presenting. Let me again restart. Yeah, can you see my presentation? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so these are some of the leadership principles that Amazon follows on a day-to-day basis. I think, as I was mentioning, it's regardless of which career you choose, this is something that you may want to always bear in mind. Be obsessed to your customers, and your customers need not just be external customers, right? Some of you all might end up having a startup of your own. Some of you all might end up working for companies. Some of you all might have a consulting firm. So you will always have some individual within the organization, internal or external, that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Make sure that you keep him happy, right? Make sure that you are obsessed with the work that you are doing for him, and ensure that you deliver the best results, which is in the benefit of your customers. So that customer obsession is one of the first principles. Second one, ownership. Own whatever you do, whether it's right or wrong. Take ownership of it. Be vocally self-critical. Make sure that if there's something that goes right, you get the credit for it. If there's something that goes wrong, you are penalized for it, right? So and most of you 8, 9 years, 10 years down the line, you will find yourselves in leadership position wherein you're leading a bunch of team members, right? So every time things go wrong for your team, don't blame it to others. Take full ownership of it. Invent and simplify. Super critical, right? So try and simplify things as much as possible. Um, uh, and obviously that can happen only by inventing or automating things. Are right a lot, not right all the time, but are right a lot. So as leaders, I think it's important for you to understand the data or the economics behind things before you make any decisions. And those decisions should be right a lot of times, more often than not. Not all the time. Your decisions can go wrong at times. You need to learn from them. But leaders in Amazon are right a lot. Learn and be curious. Super important. No matter what stage in life you find yourself in today, or probably when you turn 50, it's important that you keep reading, interacting with people, learning, and all this can happen only if you're curious, right? So as I told you, when you read a newspaper, there are probably 90% of the things in an article on Reliance acquisitions which you may not understand. Some of the terminologies will probably go off your head, right? So be curious, try and understand. There are different sources, and I think that's super critical. Hire and develop the best. This is something that will come up when you start building teams. Insist on higher standard. Whatever you do, try to achieve the highest standard. Give it your best shot. Right, the result will speak for themselves. So, I think insisting on those, have those high standards for yourselves to make sure that okay, whatever you are doing is probably, is being used in a fruitful way. So have those high standards and try to consistently achieve them. Think big, don't think small. Right, I'm not meant for this particular role. I'm not meant for chartered accountancy. Well, I had 60% in my 10th maths paper, so I don't think I have a flavor for numbers. No, why not? I mean, think big. You probably need to work on it. It's a weakness. But put in that effort, try and take it to the last line, and then probably try and do a reality check and reassess whether you're meant for it or not. But don't give up hope right in the beginning. Bias for action, right? What's bias for action? Bias for action is there's a saying in Hindi, kal kare so aaj karo so ab. So whatever decisions you need to make, don't postpone them. Prioritize, and whatever is you list down as your top priority, try and execute it as soon as possible. So that's the bias you need to show for action. Frugality, always think about cost. Always think about cost. When you talk about cost, it's not always in monetary terms. It's efforts, it's time. So try and budget when you're trying to complete a chapter, when you're trying to complete a subject. Have a budget in place. Okay, this is what I'm going to work with. So let's be frugal, as frugal as possible. Let's have timelines. Let's not be very liberal in giving a 2-page chapter 2 days, right? So let's have those realistic timelines. Let's be as frugal as possible. Think about cost in terms of time, money, and effort. Earn trust. When you're dealing with people, super important to earn that trust. I think that's probably one of my favorite leadership principles, because when you are operating in a competitive environment like this, it's very, very important that you kind of make sure that every person you are dealing with has your trust, right? So it's so this is again another one, deep dive, right? So what I mean by diving deep is try and base your decisions based on data. Again, linking it with the stage you are in today, right? Understand what the past historical question papers have been around. When you're studying for these competitive exams, you're never going to have time to cover everything in a given subject. You'll always have to leave out things. So important that you study those past trends, dive deep into it, and then accordingly prioritize, so that okay, 80% of my time will be focused on 20% of these subjects, or 30% of these subjects, right? Or 30% of these topics. The balance will probably be spread across the rest, because if I focus on these 30%, it's good enough to give me the marks that I'm looking for, or it's good enough to help me get through this examination, right? So have that kind of a deep dive mindset, analytical mindset. Have backbone, disagree, and commit. Again, what do you need to do this? Have opinions, right? Don't just be a yes man. Don't just get easily influenced by people just because somebody said that, okay, you know what, you're not meant for chartered accountancy. No. You always need to disagree and commit to that particular decision. So it's important to have your own opinion, to have your backbone and show it. Delivering results. Well, regardless of which situation you are in, important. Eventually, what matters is the result, right? So no matter how much hard work you put in, no matter how much, eventually, if you're not able to succeed in that particular given task, well, yeah, you might have learned something, but the result is not quite there. So focus on the result. Always have an eye on the end result. So I think it's so this is the last one, but a very, very important one. So with that note, I think I will end my presentation, and these are some of the websites that you can explore for further information on some of the courses that we spoke about. So I'll open it up for questions, comments, feedback.
Thank you, sir, for briefing us on various career opportunities in the field of commerce and also for delivering such a productive session. We shall now take up some of the questions received in the chat box. Over to you, Muktali.
Good afternoon, one and all. Now we will begin with question and answer session. The first question we have for today is it advisable to pursue professional courses like CA, CS along with BCom degree, and what is the cutoff required to join such courses?
Yeah. So I'll take the first question first. I think it is definitely advisable, right? So you again need to understand whether you can manage your time well, whether you can because you will have different priorities, right? You will have your BCom examinations. A lot of the CA examination could potentially coincide with your BCom. So you need to have that sort of flexibility to make sure that you can handle that sort of pressure, right? So it's but definitely, having said that, I always encourage students who are serious about these courses to start early, because you never know when and at what point in time you might just get stuck in these, because it's not an easy course to clear, right? So all said and done, I think it's always important you start early. Try and give yourself those 4 to 5 years to complete this course successfully, and then eventually trigger a career in chartered accountancy. On your next question, I think it's important to get around 50%, if I'm not wrong, in your 12th to register for this course, which is not a very high cutoff, mind you. So I think CA is one course where it is. I think, yeah, that's a good comparison between CA and MBA. I think this is something that I used to hear all the time. CA is a course which is very, very difficult, very, very easy to get into, but extremely difficult to get out of. Whereas MBA is a very, very difficult course to get into, but fairly easy to get out of, right? So from a cutoff standpoint, chartered accountancy should be a fairly easy option. But it's just that, how you take up the course and then how you progress during that span that defines your career.
The next question we have with us is, how did you self-study for CA?
Yeah, it's honestly, I wouldn't encourage you guys to do that. So back in those days, I had certain limitations. It was very difficult for me to move out of Goa, and there were hardly any coaching classes for intermediate and final back then. So it wasn't really easy for me to go to places like Pune and take up those expensive coaching classes. So all of these are private coaching classes, right? Because eventually it's all correspondence. So you have to do self study, and you are expected to clear these courses. But I would encourage. I'm not too sure what the current environment in Goa is. For foundation, definitely yes. Damodar offers one, and I'm sure Ma'am Malya as well as Dr. Barreto have ensured that the faculty are good enough to make sure that the children clear. But even for intermediate or the next level and final, I would strongly encourage you to take up coaching classes. If not in Goa, then explore other options like Pune or Bangalore. They probably have the best private institutes. But if you want to still go in for self study, it's a lot of time investment. Yeah. So how I did it was, I used to take 3 months of break from my articleship, complete break, right? So during those 3 months, I didn't have any work related commitments. It was just locking myself in a room from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Just move out for brief breaks in between, maybe but pretty much 12 to 14 hours of daily effort for 3 months if you intend to take both the groups in one shot. Obviously, lesser for one group, but mind you, it's a lot of practice in terms of the kind of problems that you have to battle out. It's a lot of reading that you need to do. So there's a fair bit of work involved if you want to do self study.
The next question is how to manage study as well as articleship.
Yeah, good question. So again, I think you have to plan it out well. So whatever suits you. Even after articleship, you need to find those couple of hours just to dedicate to your studies. So your articleship would probably start at 9 in the morning and go on till 6:30 in the evening. By the time you get back home, have your dinner, it's probably 9:30. So it's important that you probably have that discipline to work from say 10 to midnight, right? So those hour to 2 hours of daily effort will go a long way to make sure that you are abreast with with the curriculum, and B, you are always in that habit of reading, and you're not ignoring your studies at any point in time. Come the exam, usually it happens in, as I told you, May or November. Take a couple of months break, full break, and have that understanding with your principal, who is basically your practicing chartered accountants with whom you are doing your professional training. Have that understanding early to let him know that you will require those 2 months, right? There are refresher courses as well, in addition to full-time professional courses offered by private institutes in Pune and Bangalore. So if you want to do self-study all throughout, and then there is about 15 to 20-day refresher course in Pune, which you can just go and quickly attend, which focuses on the critical elements of these exams. So so a normal course, if you take up, would range from say 2 to 3 months, whereas a refresher course will probably range from 15 to 20 days, right? So you have both the options at your disposal. You can go for either do self-study and join a refresher course, or take up that long course, which will be probably a one-time course. And again, it's important to have that line of communication with your principal as well, just to make sure that he is aligned on your study plans.
The next question is, are there any specific skills required for a commerce graduate to be employed in a corporate sector in a foreign country?
Oh, so when you say commerce graduate, does it mean a basic commerce graduate, or commerce in addition to some of the courses that we spoke about?
Basic commerce graduate, sir.
Yeah. So it's uh, I would say that it really depends, right? So it really depends on what kind of job you land up in, right? So it could be a job in, say, financial services straight after your BCom. You take up um, maybe selling of insurance policies. Really depends. I'm not really in a position to answer that question, but it's a difficult task, honestly. So if you're just talking about a base qualification, which will land up into or which will land you into a fancy job abroad, it could be quite challenging. I think all of y'all, I would strongly encourage you all to think beyond BCom. I don't think any of y'all should be thinking only or restricting yourself only to BCom. So there's another course that I didn't speak about was MCom, and that's a postgraduate course straight after your BCom. I can see quite a few questions coming up around MCom. So essentially, the kind of opportunities that MCom can provide you is mostly in the field of teaching. right? So you'll most of the professors and teachers in the commerce space would probably have an MCOM qualification. So uh, it will predominantly range in the field of teaching, and in addition to that, obviously you can probably get a kind of a low profile corporate job as well. But again, I would encourage you to think big, think beyond. um, Always aim, don't restrict yourself based on what you have achieved till date. See what you can potentially achieve, what are the weak areas, how you can work on them, and think of the bigger stuff rather than just focusing on BCom.
The next question is, what is the future scope for a commerce student during post-pandemic period?
uh Great question. So I think post pandemic is going to affect pretty much all the professions, right? So no, I so from I don't think it will have a significant impact on commerce graduates per se, or commerce students. I think it really depends on what kind of job you land up in, because at the end of the day, no company can afford to operate without a finance team or a chartered accountant, right? So regardless whether you are in practice, whether it's auditing, taxation, or you're talking about having a full-fledged finance team within an organization. So whatever you aspire to do, unlikely that you will be impacted by any pandemic, right? So it's not a kind of a sales job wherein with the decreasing volumes, the company will require a lesser number of people. So that's not how it is. How it operates is you will need a basic number of staff regardless of whether you have that level of business or not, because you need to have your financials in place. There are regulatory requirements. You need to adhere to the accounting standards. From a practice standpoint, audits will always be there because it's again compliance or regulatory based. The taxation will be there because obviously people want to optimize or minimize the tax that they need to pay, and for that they need the support for chartered accountants. So I think uh, CAs per se, or commerce graduates per se, if you're looking at some of these other professions like CS and CMAs as well, so all of these are backed by certain laws, right? And which assign certain tasks to these professions. So because of this privileged position, it's unlikely that this will be impacted a whole lot.
And the last question we have with us is, can you suggest some add-on certificate courses to enhance students' accounting skills?
In terms of accounting skills, I would say, you mean pre-BCom or during BCom?
During BCom,
During,
Shiva.
during BCom.
During BCom, yeah. Uh, I think a lot of this will always be linked to some knowledge of some of the accounting packages as well, right? So if you're working in a smaller organization, um, maybe some real-time training on Tally. With a growing organization, you'll probably be exposed to more of the ERPs, right, like SAP or Oracle. So some education on the technical side will also help, because eventually the accounting flow will be in the system, right? So it's important that you probably educate or train yourself to handle some of these technical packages. Uh, but overall, from an accounting certification standpoint, or just to get that necessary training to sharpen your accounting skills, just focus on what's being taught in the class. I think we just be as attentive as possible, read different books, be as much close in touch with your professors as possible. Be curious, try and learn as much as possible by reading and asking those important questions. So I don't really think that at a BCom level I would recommend any certification per se, as long as you're taking or you're attentive in those coaching classes, the regular classes, BCom classes.
Thank you, sir, for addressing the questions raised by the participants. I request Preksha to take over the session.
Thank you, Muktali. Participants, kindly note, e-certificates will be mailed to your respective email ID on filling of the feedback form. The link of the same is provided in the chat box. Last but not the least, I now request our Head of Department, Dr. Shamir Pai, to propose the vote of thanks.
It is my privilege as a HOD of Commerce and Management to propose vote of thanks for today's webinar. First and foremost, a deep sense of gratitude to our resource person, CA Shivdat Ambe, for our proud alumnus who took time from his busy schedule for our today's webinar. Thank you, Shivdat. A big thank you to our management, principal and vice principal for giving us an opportunity to conduct this webinar and constantly guiding us. Thank you to all the participants, including our in-house participants. Without you, this webinar would not have become successful. Last but not the least, thank you to all my department colleagues and technical support team for smoothly conducting this webinar. Thank you one and all. Devarikuru.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for giving me the support. Thank you.
Dear participants, for more information, you can visit our college website, www.damodarcollege.edu.in. And now we will also be playing a video which will give you additional information about our college and its various programs. Thank you once again for your presence and have a good day ahead.
Shivdat wanted to say a personal thank you. Thank you, Shivdat. Great
Thank
to
you,
see
ma'am.
you.
Yeah, same
Great
here.
to see you.
Same here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's
long.
yeah,
Really.
close to 20 years now.
I know, really. And it was a great
Yeah.
session. Wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Shivdat. Whenever you come down to Goa, please visit.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
Thank
that's
you.
probably top in my priority list to visit the campus. Yeah.
Okay, Shivdat. Yeah. Bye. Have a good
Thank you.
life.
Bye. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. You too.